Oh, good.
So Russell's asked me to chair because it's easier from my spot than his. So I'll be chairing the meeting today, and I'd like to call to order the PVIS meeting for April 28th. And in honor of the Lillooet, I'd like to acknowledge that we were holding this meeting on the unceded territory of the Lillooet Nation. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I will.
Second.
Ryan.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Jan, this is your first go at this, isn't it?
Well, I've been to a Lions Zoom meeting.
Okay, so just so you know,
PVIS.
just so you know, if you know when I call a vote,
I put a hand up or something, or
you don't.
icon.
If you're in opposition, when I call opposed, state your name. If I don't hear you on affirmed or opposed, it means you're for the motion.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks. No rise in report. Consent agenda. Somebody like to move the consent agenda?
Move consent agenda.
Yeah, I can do that.
Second, all in favor, opposed, motion carries. Business arising from the minutes, anything? Hearing none. Staff reports and other business. Kristen, do you have an update?
I do not.
Okay, Nikki?
I do have an update on the PCC.
Okay, go ahead.
Just wanted to give everyone an update on where we're at with the community center as far as staffing and closures. For April, obviously we're coming to an end. We have done refunds for everyone who had any bookings, programming, etc. We've done refunds on those, and we're starting to process on May. At this point, unless we get the go ahead, we're still looking as though we don't have any programming out for people to register for May. So we'll refund, and if people want to rejoin, staff are still working on being able to look at summer programming and are working on what that may look like, just because if we are able to open up, we don't want to have to be sort of caught behind the 8 ball, just to make sure that we can offer programs to the public, whether it's adult programming or children's. One of the exciting things we've been able to do is offer some online fitness and dance. And so that's actually been quite well received. If you join up and you want to be part of the online fitness, you actually have access to go back and watch the fitness programs or participate in them at any time. So it's not like you just missed that one class, you can go back in. And it's proving to be quite good. Dance is absolutely adorable. One of our staff members, their daughters is taking the dance, and she's there with her little tutu in front of the laptop doing her dance. So it's getting some kids back out there and trying to get some sense of normal. We do have a small fee associated with that. And what we're wanting to do basically is just cover the costs of the instructor and the Zoom, because we did have to get a different type of Zoom account, which is, I can't remember, I think it's like called webinar or something along those lines. So we're going to keep going and seeing how good we can get membership up on that. We have redeployed a couple of staff members. We have one, and mostly they're casuals. So the majority, I think 2 of the casuals have been laid off. We don't have any guaranteed hours for them. One has been redeployed to emergency social services to assist as part of the EOC. And the other has been redeployed to public works to help out. As you may or may not be aware, the public washrooms are deemed an essential service, but they also require much more cleaning. And so we've kept 3 open. We've just actually reopened the Blackbird, so that makes a total of 4. They need to be cleaned at least twice a day. That's not really where their focus is going to be, but parks are opening up, and that's something we can keep people working so that they can continue to earn a wage. We also have 2 permanent staff members. One who has gone down to part-time and has actually applied for the CERB. So that's just due to workload. There isn't quite the capacity. This person dealt with more the people in the coming into the facility and in charge of the casual staff. So there's not a lot of hours there. So we've been able to help them through that. And the last one is just daycare is often a challenge as well. And so we've gone to sort of a flex work week with another employee. So it's been quite good as far as keeping people busy. The refunds are taking a lot of time as well. And our maintenance operator is quite busy. He's actually being able to get stuff done because there's no one in the facility, where it's usually a challenge. So that's great. Two other little updates. One, we have our new recreation manager. I did send you guys out an email. That is Christine Burns. So she starts tomorrow, and she comes from the RMOW. She's been there for about 20 years. And she's, for the last 10 years, has been the program services supervisor. So she's super excited to come. She actually has an undergraduate degree in recreation and leisure studies and a master's degree in leadership from Royal Roads. So we're just trying to figure out what that looks like. Is it going to be some remote? Can she come into the center, you know, get herself familiar, Zoom meetings with staff? I've sent her the links to all of the PVIS committee agendas and minutes so she can read up on that. And of course, she'll participate in any upcoming PVIS meetings, and we'll be bringing forward reports. And then the last thing is, you may or may not have seen that somebody ran into the underground parking gate the other day and did some extensive damage there. We have some photos, but we aren't, the license plate was kind of blurred, so we aren't able to follow up and find out exactly what ended up happening or who it was. So we have put out a plea to the community and this individual that if you are the one, or if you've seen anything, please let us know. And right now we're just going through insurance, but we can't even, like the gate doesn't open, so we can't have access to the truck to go and do inspections, and it's proving to be a little problematic. It's not going to be a simple, easy fix, but we are going through insurance on that.
Awesome.
And I think that's my update.
Any questions?
Richmond?
Go for it.
I was just curious, when you mentioned the 4 bathrooms that were reopening, I can think of, there's the, Chambers, Blackbird, the porta potties, and then
The washrooms, we actually have 5. We've removed the porta potties at the barn, so there aren't that anymore. So we have 1 Mile has an outhouse, which that's open. Creekside has a bathroom that's been closed. Underhills has a washroom that's open,
Okay.
and then Blackbird, and then the village office.
Okay, Underhill was the one that I forgot about. But my other question, or my question leads into this, is there been any talk about just opening the community center bathrooms for public use?
We don't, because we aren't really staffing it.
But
There's
I mean,
not.
just the bathrooms themselves.
Yeah, there's no one in the organization that's there. They come in to kind of grab stuff and go. We haven't had to explore that yet. Our washrooms are pretty spread out. Where I think that we may have to look at considerations are for potentially some of our vulnerable population who don't have access to showers and who did rely on the community center. We haven't had any feedback yet, but we have been reaching out with Sea to Sky Community Services to see if there are individuals that are lacking some certain basic requirements, such as showers. So we'll see if we need any help on that. At this time, we haven't initiated opening it for that reason yet.
Thank you, Nikki.
Any other questions? Could I get a motion to receive, please?
Motion to receive.
Second? Jan,
I'll second.
all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Nikki. Director's reports. Is there anything? Correspondence for action. 9.1, request for funding, Pemberton Farmers Market Association. Pemberton Market is looking for $6,000 from our PDIF. Graham, did you want to say anything on this, or are we good to get right into it?
Yeah, I think I don't really have anything to add to the letter that was provided by the association. So they set out all the information quite well.
All right, thank you. Any thoughts, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Richmond?
Go for it.
I'm just curious about the all these. So these three requests are all coming out of the same fund, correct?
Mhm.
And so my question is that, let's say we approved all these for the amounts they're asking for. do we have that kind of funding to fund all three of these?
All three of these were accounted for when we put this fund together.
Okay, because I was reading through the next pages and I couldn't quite figure out if we would have all these funds available. That's why I'm asking the question, but.
Yeah, the canoe club was in there too, right? Yeah,
Yep.
that was all there in the original calculations.
Okay.
Right, Graham?
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, correct. There was a bit of a difference in the costing, the way we model it. So the Canoe Association, we had originally sort of modeled it for a larger disbursement, and theirs came in under. Whereas with PAWS, we had thought it was going to be a bit less than the request that is on the agenda today, but it came in a bit higher. So those two actually balance out to be equal to what we had calculated at the outset.
Perfect. Yeah, the pause ask, what was it originally? I thought it was 6.
I think their ask is 10 though.
No, originally, I mean.
Oh.
Originally, we had calculated to be 5.
5, right. So let's go one at a time. We'll talk about whether we're comfortable with all of them. Does everybody good with the farmers market? And if so, can I get a motion to approve that funding?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Second.
Second, further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. The pause request, so that's twice as much as they asked for originally. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Well, I have a question just based on the amount itself. I guess for what their reasoning is behind to hire a part-time administrative assistant. I guess that seems a little high considering that's double what they asked for last year. And my only my concern is that that's a lot of money for the current times we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if we did fund the full 10, where does that put us for next year?
Well, next year we have the same requisition for these funds, presumably. But I also agree. I think it's, it went from 5,000 to 10,000. That's a pretty big jump. I mean, we all love the work that they do at PAWS, and they're certainly dedicated. I just want to make sure we're comfortable with 10 grand.
I think, I guess the main thing is that they want to have an administrator there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of with Ryan on this. I'd like to give them enough money to manage it, but we don't know what requisitions and so on are going to be like next year with the way taxes are and the way people aren't working and whether people can pay their taxes and all of that. So I don't know. It's a whole new ball game here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't have to fund the full 10,000 if that's not where we're comfortable. We started with 5. We could be another number. Russell, do you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that we fund them to the tune of 7,500 for this year. It's kind of an in-between number, but like what Ryan said, with the situation that's going on, the problem is they still have to operate, and the welfare of the animals they look after, that's not going to change because of the situation we're in. So I think they do, as you said, very valuable work for this whole area. So I would suggest that we change that figure to 7,500, and then, as time goes along, we can discuss with their leadership as to where what their needs will be for next year.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, do I get a seconder for discussion?
Second.
So 7,500, and I mean, maybe I don't know how the funding goes out or what the communication is, but maybe we can explain too that, when we put the fund together, it was based on the current funding levels. They came in at twice as much. We've tried to cut the difference, and like Russell says, we're happy to talk to them in the future, but that is kind of what we budgeted for, was $5,000 for this group. So as long as we can kind of communicate how we got to this decision, then I can support it.
I agree.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And the last one is the Pemberton Canoe Association for $3,200. Graham, what was their original ask?
They didn't actually have an original ask. We just kind of through communication with Sheena Fraser, we had sort of estimated it to be at 10,000. But this was essentially their only ask, because this is their request, and it just came in quite a bit lower than what Sheena and I thought it might be.
Thank you. Anybody have thoughts, or would somebody like to move the request for funding?
A question.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, when do they typically get started? I guess what I'm wondering is, with the current restrictions drawn for groups and sporting events, I'm just wondering, $3,200, it seems like a fair amount. Is this going to be enough for them in 12 months? Or, I mean, like you said, they came in low, which is fine.
Yeah,
The Canoe Association is a great association, just like the other two.
Right.
Kind of curious what the committee's opinion is on the 3,200 itself.
that's what
Yeah,
they're for. Go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, I think if that's what they're requesting, that's what they figure they need.
Yeah.
You know, and the same thing with them. I mean, we can go back and talk to their, you know, directors, executive, or whatever, and find out, you know, for next year how much they actually, if this was sufficient or if they do need more, and then they can tell us what they need.
Kristen?
Mhm.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. I'm just looking at their letter, and in here they're saying that all school programs have been canceled. The plan for the Flatwater program and the summer camps is very uncertain. Currently, no membership fees have been collected, so our internal revenue stream is non-existent. Have not hired any staff for this season and awaiting developments in the next month before making any decisions on hiring. So my read of this is that this is for the 3,200 is for a deficit related to the Flatwater program last year.
Oh,
It says in their letter, however, even with all this extra fund, the Sprint Flatwater program ran a deficit last year, resulting in the club using some of its contingency fund to cover its overages. The Pemberton Canoe Association is looking to make changes to this program to make it more sustainable and look for additional funding to support this program.
okay. Well, there you go.
So in the last paragraph, they're requesting 3,200 to make up for the shortfall for the Sprint Flatwater program, which would be used towards the salary costs associated with hiring a coach for this program.
Right.
Which I understand to be from last year, from reading their letter is how I'm understanding that.
Gotcha.
So so that's covering a shortfall from last year, the $3,200. This isn't hiring a coach to do online stuff or anything then.
No, this is to cover their overages from last year due to interruptions.
Right.
Mayor Richmond,
Go ahead.
within our within the bylaw for this fund, do we have anything that stipulates what the money can be used for if it's approved?
Like if it could be used to cover an overage, you mean?
That's what I'm getting at. Yes.
Graham?
Not in the bylaw, but in the policy that we drafted sort of in concert with the bylaw, there are provisions around what you can and can't use the funds for and what are ineligible expenses. I mean, to make up for a previous deficit, that would be stretching things pretty far with respect to the policy.
Mayor Richmond?
Go ahead.
Do we want staff to delve into that question a little bit more and bring it back to the next meeting?
I don't know. I mean, we did consider that they were going to be coming to us for funds for their operations. Their operations are halted like everybody else's, and they're trying to figure out their own finances. I mean, if this is the ask for the year, we do have a budget for the canoe club. I recognize it's not quite what we had in mind, but I also would like to, if that's what it takes to support the canoe club to keep them to keep them afloat, then I'm kind of happy to go that route. Nikki, did you have something you want to throw in there?
Yeah, I just,
Come on.
well, I was
That
going
was
to
good. I needed that. That was a good one.
I think it's hard to say, okay, we're going to float your deficit from last year. What they might have considered doing is having, what are you guys laughing about?
Ryan's just in pun heaven over there. I don't know.
They keep the float
Maybe if they have a different sort of
ask.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm happy to support the $3,200. I think for all of the youth and that, it's important to keep this club going. It's an important asset for the youth, and we need to, I guess, buck up here. So
I think it's dangerous to pay a shortfall from last year, and they said that they needed to go into their contingency, indicating they still had funds, right? Like if they needed to ask their membership for more money to cover it.
So how about this? How about we put a motion out that the PDF support the Canoe Association for funding up to $3,200 to carry on their operations. And if this is okay, Graham, we leave it with you to sort of discuss how that ask can be tweaked a little bit to make sure we're not stretching.
Yeah, that's okay with me. Yeah. And I will remind the committee that this is a transitional year. So the policy was provided to each of the organizations, but we did note that, the full kind of comprehensive application process for the fund and for the program would be starting next year, at which point the policy would carry more weight and they would have to set out a more thorough and robust long-term plan with sort of a complete set of programming that would go along with that. So that this is kind of a stepping stone year to get to that next level.
Gotcha. Okay, anybody else have anything on this? So we're looking for a motion to support them for funding up to $3,200 for ongoing operations, and we'll leave it open, and that staff works with the Canoe Association.
I'll make that motion.
So sorry.
Go ahead, Kristen.
So just the use of your up to, I'm not sure what you want us to, how you want us to work with them.
Well, I just thought because we were tweaking the application a little bit, we would leave it a little bit open, but I mean, I'm happy to just call it 3,200. I was just using the open language.
Usually we see that language when we're asking them to submit some kind of proof or invoice or something.
Yeah. And that's why I thought, because we're asking them to sort of work on the ask a little bit, the application a little bit, that we would use the language up to. But if it's not appropriate, I'm not married to it.
I mean, unless you want us to kind of be exercising some judgment in terms of what they're coming back with, and
Right. Okay, let's just call it 32. No, we don't have to leave that to your discretion. It was more just around being flexible to allow them to change the ask a little bit so it fits our policy better. So let's just say support funding of $3,200 then.
Okay.
So I got a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Decision on late business. Director's notice of motion. Motion to adjourn. Who
I
wants
can
to
move that.
Seconded by Jan. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone. That was
Thanks,
easy.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Yeah.
Christian, for
Bye-bye.
getting me sorted here.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye.
Stay healthy, everybody.
You
too.
too.
You too.